Flavio was invited to an event in Mato Grosso in the city of Sinop, an agribusiness event. The agribusiness supporters of Bolsonaro there invited Flavio to an event. These agribusiness people, they're very ungrateful, aren't they? They never grew as much as they did during Lula's government. Lula went above and beyond to bring down the high tariffs. From the Trump administration against agribusiness in Brazil, orchestrated there by the Bolsonaro supporters, especially Flavio and Eduardo Bolsonaro there in the United States, Lula did everything he could for agribusiness. And agribusiness is ungrateful. Ungrateful people. And the vast majority are full of themselves. They invited Flavio Bolsonaro to an event there. Then in his speech, Flavio revealed who he really is. Flavio is just as much of a coup plotter as his father. Flavio Bolsonaro tries to sell the idea that he is moderate, that he got vaccinated. Cute Flavio. That he won't be the disaster and catastrophe his father was. But there in his speech, Flavio made it very clear that he's a coup supporter just like his father. What did he say? He said that the federal Supreme Court is already interfering in the electoral process. Pay attention to this. Flavio Bolsonaro said that the federal Supreme Court is already interfering in the electoral process. This is coup-mongering. Again, they're influencing people's minds, especially those in agribusiness, right? And they took part in the January 8th riots, and many are in trouble and in jail even. Are they going again? Yes, Flavio will do exactly what his father did, run away. What happened? He mentioned it in this context. Look, he attacked the federal Supreme Court, and he said that the federal Supreme Court is already interfering in the electoral process. In their minds, right? Assuming it's to help Lula. Bolsonaro's loss in 2022, according to them and the coup plotters, wasn't due to lacking votes, but because the voting machine stole them. And it stole for a leftist. Lula, really? You have to be really dumb to believe that, right? If it were going to steal, it'd steal for someone on the right or not. The Supreme Court is left-wing. The Supreme Court is communist. Oh no, go get help. Go get help. Go get your head checked. Get your thinking straight, for God's sake. So what happens? He also said that the Supreme Court is already interfering in the electoral process. In what context, Andrea? In this context right here, look. He said that to defend Romeu Zema. No. He's really eager for Romeu Zema to accept being his running mate. He said that Romeu Zema didn't do anything. And that Guilherme Mendes has already filed a complaint with Alexandre de Moraes against Romeu Zema. Just because Romeu Zema criticized that Romeu Zema didn't do anything. And that the Supreme Court is already interfering to remove a candidate any minute now. But hold on, guys. Romeu Zema said that Guilherme Mendes comes from a sentence. This is the most serious crime within the field of the judiciary that a judge can commit, which is selling rulings. And the former governor of Minas Gerais, who even left Minas Gerais bankrupt, and he only remained governor of Minas Gerais thanks to the Supreme Court, which granted him an injunction to stay in office. Because of so much debt and bankruptcy that he left in Minas Gerais, he's a deadbeat. He didn't pay anyone. He said that Guilherme Mendes sells rulings. He did something with puppets, with the characters, but that doesn't take away from the seriousness of the situation, saying that Guilherme Mendes sells rulings. And he made this video and posted it on social media. Who? Romeu Zema. Guilherme Mendes then called on Alexandre de Moraes and the Attorney General's office to include Romeu Zema in the digital militias inquiry, the fake news case, and so on. Then Flavio Bolsonaro trying to defend Romeu Zema because he's eager for Romeu Zema to accept being his running mate, said that the Supreme Court is already interfering in the elections. And that what Romeu Zema did was just a criticism, a debate, it wasn't, guys. It wasn't. If you say that a Supreme Court justice sells rulings, you have to prove it. If you don't prove it, you're committing the crime of slander. That's the situation. And the coup plotter here with this coup attempt, Flavio Bolsonaro defending Romeu Zema, saying that the Supreme Court is already interfering in the electoral process. His father's entire coup scheme, he brings it to light. But he only reveals it occasionally. And he tries to hide it. Because he wants the support of the Democratic right wing. And also from the center. So he's selling himself as a moderate. But the mask always slips. First situation, I don't believe that Romeu Zema will be the running mate of Flavio Bolsonaro. In fact, Flavio Bolsonaro is having trouble finding a running mate for himself. There's talk about a city councilwoman from a city in the Northeast, a councilwoman, to be vice president of the Republic. Why, Andrea? Because people don't want to be Flavio Rachadinho's running mate, or Flavio Milicinha. Do you understand, my dear? And Romeu Zema is already acting like a hardcore Bolsonarist. Why, Andrea? To take votes away from Flavio. That's what he's doing. That's why he's standing up against the Supreme Court. Romeu Zema found a partner in this who has a coup plotting bent. And unfortunately, part of the press bought and is still buying into this aggression and this violence against the Supreme Court. I'm not saying here that the Supreme Court is perfect. I'm not saying any of that. If you have proof that Gilmar Mendes is selling court rulings, do it the right way. Just make sure you have the proof. Because if you don't have proof, you're committing the crime of slander. And that's not freedom of speech. That's not criticism. That's a crime against someone's honor. Slander, insult, and defamation. Now, Romeu Zema, if he is charged with slander against a Supreme Court justice, he can use the legal mechanism inherent to the crime of slander. Slander is falsely claiming someone committed a crime. What is this mechanism? The truth defense. You can prove during the trial that you are telling the truth. Then you won't be charged with the crime of slander. And the person you proved guilty will be charged with the crime you accused them of. It's easy then, Romeu Zema, it's easy. You can turn the tables then. Did you get it, my dear? This is not freedom of speech. This is a crime. Because Romeu Zema doesn't have any proof of anything. If he had any, he would have exposed it a long time ago. Romeu Zema just wants to be in the spotlight and have a platform and take votes away from Flavio. That's why Flavio wants him as his running mate, because he takes votes away from Flavio, because he adopted a guns blazing attitude. Oh, to the extreme. Understood? Bolsonaro supporters love that. That's the situation here. And Flavio shows his true colors. A coup-monger just like his father. That's the situation. Pull it up, guys. Pull it up. Flavio. It's the same as dad. So put it like this, okay? Not even dad. Not even the son. Bolsonaro never again. That's the message in this context. Don't let me be the only one saying it. Don't let me be the only one saying it. Is some little minion crying on the live stream? Tell them, sit down and learn. My God, oh Jesus. In the original draft of the pension reform, ficou estabelecido. In the original draft, a person could only retire when they were 70 years old, Andrea, I studied. I'm talking about something I studied. Demand expiring. It was there. They wanted to put it that a person could only retire at 70 years old if they were a man and at 65 if they were a woman. 40 years of contributions for men and 35 years of contributions for women. This was in the original draft of Bolsonaro's 2019 pension reform, E19, which didn't pass that way. And Flavio wants to restore that. Flavio wants to carry out all the cruel and evil things Bolsonaro couldn't. No, calm down. Don't get upset. Bolsonaro has changed. In the pension reform, Bolsonaro set a minimum age. Before, there wasn't one. You just had a contribution period. If you managed to reach 30 years of contributions as a woman and 35 years as a man, you would retire. Regardless of their age, there was no minimum age required. Bolsonaro set a minimum age to retire. Yes, Andre, yes. Men at 65 years old and women at 62 years old. But I repeat, in the original proposal, it wasn't like that. It was 70 years old for men, 65 for women, with 40 years of contributions for men and 35 for women. And Folha de São Paulo said that Flavio Bolsonaro, if he is elected president of the Republic, will try to restore what Bolsonaro was not able to do. That would be one of the measures. Another measure would be not giving a real increase to retirees and pensioners. As it is given today, for example, actually Flavio, according to Folha de São Paulo, was going to legally establish what Bolsonaro did during the 4 years of his government, which was not giving a real increase to any retiree or pensioner, just like Bolsonaro did during his 4 years in office. According to Folha de São Paulo, Flavio Bolsonaro is going to legalize, is going to institutionalize this situation so that the government, in this case him, if elected, God forbid, I rebuke that in the name of Jesus. If he is elected, he would not be required to adjust retirement benefits or pensions. Institutionalize what Bolsonaro did in practice. And another thing, one of the measures would also be to bring back what they were talking about during the Bolsonaro administration, which I don't know if you remember, which was the need to freeze the minimum wage for 6 years. This was said by Paulo Guedes, and it went over so badly that they quickly stopped talking about it. But the idea is to freeze the minimum wage for at least 6 years so that the economy can stabilize according to their way of thinking. Because in reality, they're there to govern for the elite and the upper class, and the worker is left to suffer. So all of this was revealed yesterday by Folha de São Paulo. And Folha de São Paulo said that they had access to Flavio Bolsonaro's policy platform, which is being managed by a group of deputies and senators, notably led by Senator Rogério Marinho, who is actually the coordinator of Flavio Bolsonaro's political campaign. So this situation came to light. So it doesn't surprise me. So much so that Flavio Bolsonaro has already said that he's going to be like his father, but according to him, a more moderate version. So it doesn't surprise me at all. Bolsonaro, we know that he didn't raise the minimum wage during his 4 years in office. In 2021, Bolsonaro raised the minimum wage by 6 reais. I will never forget that. It went from 1,039 reais to 1,045. Bolsonaro didn't adjust anyone's retirement or pension during that period. So, it doesn't surprise me. Bolsonaro introduced at least 2 provisional measures trying to practically end the 13th month bonus and vacation. In the original text of the 2019 Social Security reform itself, Bolsonaro included the end of PIS, PASEP, and the wage bonus benefit. The National Congress didn't accept it. The National Congress didn't accept those situations. In fact, in one of the sessions that overturned this provisional measure that tried to end workers' rights, creating the so-called green and yellow employment contract where you wouldn't have a 13th month bonus, wouldn't have 1/3 vacation pay, and would lose a series of rights. I'll never forget. Rodrigo Pacheco, who was the president of the National Congress and the Senate, shelved this provisional measure with almost unanimous support from the Senate floor at that time. That's how bad it was for the Brazilian people. So there were several things Bolsonaro tried. Bolsonaro tried to all but end LOAS and the BPC. I will never forget a provisional measure from Bolsonaro where he changed a single word, which would have taken away access to BPC from thousands and thousands of people, and that was overturned because it was done by provisional measure. Because BPC works like this. If you had an income per capita of a quarter of the minimum wage, equal to or less than a quarter of the minimum wage, if you couldn't retire, if you're 65 years old, or if you're unable to work, have some condition, a person with a disability, can you get the BPC? As long as your family's per capita income is equal to or less than a quarter of the minimum wage. What did Bolsonaro do with the provisional measure? He removed the equal and left only the less than. This would take away the BPC from thousands or perhaps even millions of people. He used a provisional measure, but the Senate and National Congress overturned it because it was so cruel. And I know all of this and remember all of this because I explained all of it on my channel all the time. So Flavio Bolsonaro is going to be an even worse Bolsonaro. But Andrea, is that even possible? My grandmother used to tell me, my child, there's nothing bad that can't get worse. And it can get worse. It can get so much worse. No, I'm going to show you some videos of a few people talking, then I'll show you what Flavio Bolsonaro did yesterday. Whoa, Brazil, let's see here. There are already people who have spoken out about this mess. Look at this. Pay attention. Flavio Bolsonaro really isn't any good. Look at what he intends to do. What did I do, guys? I didn't put it on the screen. I put it here. Since it's here, I'll read it first, then put it on the screen. Urgent. Flavio Bolsonaro's government plan has leaked. He plans to freeze pensions. The alleged economic program of the senator, who is a pre-candidate for the presidency, would end pension adjustments and spending on health and education above inflation. In addition, according to the leaked government plan reported by Folha de São Paulo, which claims to have gained access, they are going to dismantle Brazil. But who will be affected? It will fall on the backs of workers, the poor, retirees, and pensioners, who are the ones who will suffer. Just remember Javier Millet and what's happening over there. Then you mix in Argentina, the chaos over there where people are eating cat meat and donkey meat because they can't afford to buy even a little chicken or some ground meat, just cat meat. You mix Argentina with the state of precariousness, corruption, kickbacks, militias, and criminal organizations from Rio de Janeiro within the political field. Mix the two together, give it a stir, and that's what Brazil will be like. God help us if Flavio Bolsonaro gets elected. That's all. It's easy. The recipe is already out there for anyone who wants to see it. And some people have already spoken up here. They're expressing themselves about this situation. Let's take a quick look.
Flavio Bolsonaro is really no good. Just look at what he plans to do with the economy. Today's Folha de São Paulo published a very important article. Pay attention to what I'm about to tell you. He wants to reduce pension increases, making pensions smaller over time. Second thing, he wants to end funding increases for education and health, reducing the funding for Brazil's public health system and for education. It's a crime. Besides that, Rogério Marinho, who is the opposition leader in the Senate, has already said he wants to make a new pension reform to raise the retirement age and a new labor reform to take away more workers' rights. Flavio Bolsonaro keeps hopping around all cheerful, while at the same time he's setting up the biggest trap for the Brazilian people. Anyone who thinks he's nicer than Bolsonaro is mistaken. What will come if he wins is much worse, but he won't win. The Brazilian people will pay attention to the debate.
That's right, my dear. He won't. No way. And another thing about Wow, it's really red here, isn't it, guys? What's going on with this thing that's red? I mean, we're red, but we don't have to be that much, right? Everything here is red, guys. Another interesting situation is that Bolsonaro also tried to remove the mandatory funding for health and education. He tried to reduce the mandatory funding that the federal government has to invest in health and education during his administration. Just look it up and you'll see. That's what Flavio is going to try to do. Flavio is going to try to remove part of the mandatory funding or all of the mandatory funding from health and education. No. There was a moment during Bolsonaro's administration when Bolsonaro even considered ending Brazil's public health system. That went over so badly that this conversation didn't even last 2 days. They just stopped talking about it. But he actually talked about it, about ending the SUS. Just like he practically ended the Ministry of Labor, he ended the Ministry of Labor. He tried to end the labor court system. So Flavio Bolsonaro, he's going to be more of the same when it comes to Bolsonaro. That's the situation. Bulos also spoke about this here, outraged as he should be. Olha aqui.
Well, pay close attention. Today, Flavio Bolsonaro's secret plan for Brazil's economy leaked in case he is elected president. He wants to freeze the value of retirement benefits for 4 years. That's right. The cost of living goes up. Things keep getting more
expensive at the market, but retirement benefits stay the same. In fact, that's what his father did with the minimum wage when he was in government. Everything was frozen. And there's more. He doesn't just want to do this with retirement benefits. He also wants to freeze the BPC, the continuous cash benefit, which is the benefit that guarantees the basics for the elderly, for people with disabilities, for mothers and fathers of autistic children. He also wants to freeze the BPC. Paulo Guedes in Bolsonaro's government did this to health and education workers and in other areas.
And in all this mess, while everyone was so distracted, they hugged us, fooled us, and we've already put a grenade in the enemy's pocket. 2 years without a salary increase.
They didn't want this to leak before the election, but it did. So pass this video on, share it so everyone knows the truth. Guys, pay close attention.
Yeah, truth be told, right now, what can happen is people being deceived. And even so, if you say, oh no, I'm going to vote for Flavio, then that's your problem. Nevertheless, the whip comes down on every Brazilian's back unless you're rich. No, maybe you're rich. No, maybe you're here on the channel, you're lost, you're a billionaire. Then sure, go ahead and vote for him. You'll be just fine. Now, if you're poor, middle class, or a wannabe, then you'll have to excuse me, okay? Then you'll have to excuse me because we're telling you. And it's nothing new. Just look at what Bolsonaro tried to do and what Bolsonaro actually did and what he failed to do for the most part, which he should have done. Flavio will offer more of the same and little change from Bolsonaro. That's why it's no to Flavio. Put this up. Flavio, I'm out. Lula for a 4th term. Flavio, I'm out. Lula for a 4th term. Lindenberg Farias also spoke. Look here.
Flavio Bolsonaro means an attack on retired workers and the withdrawal of resources from health and education. Everything became clear with this article from Folha de São Paulo today by journalist Fernando Cancian. Look, it's all there. They are going to end the policy of raising the minimum wage implemented by Lula. They're returning to how things were under Temer and Bolsonaro. The minimum wage was frozen. It only increased according to inflation. There wasn't this real gain. And the losses for the worker who earns the minimum wage, for retirees, and for everyone who receives the continuous cash benefit. The other attack is against health and education. This was a hard-won achievement over a long time. Today, the federal government is required to invest 15% of its net current revenue in health and 18% of its total tax revenue in education. They want to change the constitution to remove this, to keep it frozen. In other words, it will only be adjusted according to inflation, when we know that revenue collection grows much more than inflation. That's what Flavio Bolsonaro stands for. It's the biggest attack on education and public health in our country. We need to invest even more in education and public health. This is a disaster, folks. It's important that we speak out. Share this video. Flavio Bolsonaro means an attack on the poorest workers who live on minimum wage, on retirees and pensioners.
That's right. Flavio represents that. On labor rights and social issues, he represents total backsliding. He's Bolsonaro, but even worse. That's the truth. That's why we're backing Lula for a fourth term. Flavio out. I ask you to like the live stream. When you like the live stream, YouTube recommends it to more people. But first, look, I already have our first debate scheduled for you here. Debate sentencing stay or go, right and left. A live debate between me and Michelle. Michelle is right wing and I am obviously left wing. And we are going to debate this on Monday at 8 p.m. I'll send you the link now. I'll copy the link here. Oi. I don't know. Here it seems normal. I'll send you the link right now. Here, go ahead and join and subscribe to the channel, okay? Also, turn on the notification bell so you can access the live stream. I'll show you here because this thing is kind of crazy. Look here. Debate right and left. Does the sentencing stay or go? There. We know that next week there will be an analysis of Lula's veto on the sentencing, so we're going to talk exactly about that here in a live stream. Don't forget, you're going to click this link and like the live stream right here, okay? I'll make it bigger so you can see it better. I'll make it big here, okay? Come here and like the live stream. You come here, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell. You come here, right here, and set notifications to personalized, or if you prefer to all, turn it on here because whenever there's a live, you'll be notified. Now, of course, subscribe to this channel. This is the Politica Brazil Noir channel. Subscribe because this channel will be just for debates and it will start on Monday at 8 p.m. This debate, which is going to be really cool, about various topics, about the January 8th events, about sentencing, about amnesty, and a number of other issues, okay? Me and Michelle, he will have his right-wing perspective, right? And I will have, of course, our left-wing progressive point of view. It's really going to be great, so subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and give it a like. And more than that, scan this QR code. Here is the QR code for my group, for the WhatsApp channel. Whenever there's a new live, for example, I posted this live that's happening right now. Now, when it's 12:30, I'll post the 12:30 live. When it's the debate channels live, I'll post the link. So you don't miss anything because unfortunately, a lot of people aren't getting YouTube notifications. Even if you subscribe to the channel, even if you turn on the bell, sometimes you don't get the notification. It's tough. But here on this WhatsApp channel, you'll have access to everything I post. For example, yesterday afternoon, the end of the 6-on, 1-off work schedule was approved in the Constitution and Justice Committee. So what did I do? I rushed, made a little video, grabbed my phone, rushed, made a little video, and posted it here in the group. Because here in the group, you won't be left out of the loop. All right? Because here on the channel, on this channel, the live stream is at 8:30, 12:30, and a highlight is at 16:30. And here you get access to information faster, okay? And any extra content, a new live stream, I'll bring it here to the group. So when you join there, what do you need to have? You need to have WhatsApp on your phone. That's it, okay? And we'll be together and connected, engaged in the fight for democracy against the far right, against any kind of abuse. And we stand for diversity. We stand for life. We are left-wing progressives. And as long as there is privilege for an elite group, whatever is granted to the poorest and to the workers will be fair. Unfair, especially in this country where inequality is so violent that it hurts so much, especially those people who don't. often don't have access to education and consequently don't have access to job qualifications and don't have access to a dignified life. So we have to fight for this to change. And that's always our proposal: dignity and respect in any environment. So like the live stream, comment and share it. Thank you so much. Let's stay alert and always together and united. Sending you love. See you at the next live. Take care. Bye-bye.